Our daily Bible reading today comes from Ezekiel chapter 17 through chapter 19. And our daily devotional today here at Carrollton Christian Fellowship comes from the beginning of Ezekiel chapter 17. With Ezekiel chapter 17, with our devotional today, verses 1 through 10 is explained further in verses 11 through 24. So we can understand and we can know what the interpretation of this text is. And that's the same thing with a majority of Scripture. A majority of and most of Scripture is further explained in other portions of Scripture. We would say that the best commentary on the Old Testament is the New Testament, and the best commentary on the New Testament is the Old Testament. There are places where it is explicit, there are places to where it is implied, and there are also places to where we see patterns. We see patterns how the Lord works, and then we understand by watching and looking at these key ways and the key themes how God works, that this is his character and this is his intention on how to go about doing things. But here with this portion, it is exactly explained in verses 11 through 24. Our devotional, what we see is we see that the Lord tells Ezekiel to give the people a riddle and a parable. A riddle would be that it is a puzzle. It is something to get them to think. This parable, it is an illustration of spiritual and material truth. The Lord here, he's addressing more of the political corruption and the wickedness that is seen in the city and in the kingdom of Judah, so in Jerusalem and in Judah. And the reason why the Lord gives the explanation later in verses 11 through 24 is because the Lord desires that no one will be left unaware. The Lord desires that no one will perish from not understanding the truth of this riddle. In verses 3 through 6, we see that, and we are told later on, that the king of Babylon is this first eagle. And then in verses 7 through 8, this second eagle, for one, the reader would see that it is a passive eagle. It is not an eagle that is acting. It is not an eagle that is moving. It is an eagle that has no action and that it just sits there. And this second eagle, it was Egypt. In verses 9 through 10, we see God's observation of the vine, of Israel, of Judah. We see God's observation there. And we see what the first eagle will do. So we see what Babylon will do when they notice and realize how Judah, how Jerusalem has gone and sought alliance with Egypt against the truth that the individual who Nebuchadnezzar had placed as regent over Jerusalem. And so what he will do, he will pull up the root, he will cut out the fruit, and then he will leave what is left there to rot. So he'll cut it up, take the good parts to Babylon, and he'll leave the rest to rot. The truth here that we see is we see that the vine was still God's, and that both eagles were under the control of the Lord. So some application for us today from our devotional is that how many times we can look at that to where the direction of the Lord and where the Lord is leading, where the Lord is guiding, where the Lord in his knowledge, understanding is saying that something is where he is leading us to go and where the consequences possibly are, whatever it may be, where the Lord is saying this is what you need to do. And then how many times do we completely say, well, I don't want that. I want to go after what I think is best. But then what we think is best is oftentimes it's good for nothing. It's going to do nothing in our life. And then what happens when we go after something that is dead, something that has no support? Well, we end up getting pulled up by the root, and we end up having nothing to pull strength from. We end up getting all the fruit, all the good things of our life ended up getting wasted and getting used for nothing, and do not go and do not get used for the Lord, but they just get wasted and it just gets burned up. And then the rest of our time, it just seems to rot away. So I hope that this can be a great encouragement to us and for us today, that no matter what the Lord is doing in our life, whether or not it's correction, whether or not it's direction, whatever it may be, always go forward in what the Lord has said and stated, so that we're not pulling from something and pulling strength from something that is dead, that is useless, that has no life in it, because all that is going to happen is that we're going to dry up from our root. Our strength is going to fail. And then all of the fruit, all of the good abundance of our life, all of the good strength of our life, it'll just get wasted. And then even our time is going to rot. Our time and what we have left is it just feels like it rots. So again, I hope this will be great encouragement for us today. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. So take care and have a blessed one.